This is the Chefpreneur Podcast, where we inspire professional cooks to take on greater risk to build a personal chef business for themselves. Now, here's your host, Andres Hinojosa.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chefpreneur Podcast. I am your host, Andres Hinojosa. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hey, before I even get to the podcast today, I wanted to just send a shout out again to Mireya Hinojosa. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and allowing me to interview you and getting your perspective on what it's like in the industry and transferring into kind of the personal chef space and the reasons why you did it. Basically for being able to spend more time with the people who really matter, your family, and trying to juggle the culinary industry as well as your family. So I just wanted to send a shout out to you, Mireya. Thank you so much. If you guys didn't get a chance to listen to that podcast, I highly suggest you go back and listen to it from last week. It was great, and I think it'll really just basically a lot of you guys can relate to Mireya's story and the same things that she was dealing with. So again, thank you so much. Here on the podcast, on the Chefpreneur Podcast, we always have a little segment where we do a Q&A. And recently on the Chefpreneur Movement Facebook group, I posted a simple, fun question for you all. And I basically asked you guys what you think the biggest tip or gratuity I've ever received being a personal chef was. Now, I just want to make the disclaimer, this is not so I can brag. I just thought it would be a fun question just to see where your guys' head's at and see what you guys really think. And also giving me the ability to give you guys a little glimpse on what's actually possible in this space and being your own boss and having your own personal chef business. So I gave you guys kind of a multiple choice question, and it was between $500, $100, $160, which somebody added in, $250 or $2,500. Now, those are all big amounts. I think that all of us would say that they would be happy with any of those tips or gratuities, but I just wanted to kind of throw that question out. And the answer to that question was actually $2,500. That's pretty ridiculous, right? So, I mean, I literally was shocked when this client gave me $2,500 as a tip. Now, it was for a span of 3 days. It was a dinner on Friday night, and then it was a late night type of kind of appetizers on a Saturday night, and then a lunch on Sunday. And I honestly thought it was for me and my team because obviously I had a team. It was several people that were obviously helping me out in the event. Chef Daniel and Tony, my maitre d', and all the just the great team that I have. And when I asked my client if this is for everyone, basically she was like, no, this is for you. I already took care of them. And I was like, wow, okay. So that was very generous of her, and she's amazing. She's one of my favorite clients. And I wanted to segue into that for this week's question. And actually there was a follow-up comment in that post on the Chefpreneur Facebook group, the Chefpreneur Movement Facebook group, and it comes from Peter, and he asked, how, ? I love how you put that. And then who was the client and how did you get clients like that? So great question, Peter. Clearly, here's the deal. This client I found basically from a referral of my very first client I ever had in my personal chef business. Now, I'm being very serious about this. This was my very first personal chef client I had when I started working for myself as a personal chef. I didn't even have the name Dinner with a Chef yet. It was just basically under my name, Chef Andres Hinojosa, and I had a website and everything like that for chefandreshinojosa.com. And that being said, I received their contact basically from this client. And they were basically telling me, hey, you should reach out to this client. They're looking to do an event, and I think that they would love your services. And I gave her your information. And so maybe 2-3 days later, they got in contact with me. And ever since then, they've been probably one of the best clients I've had. They've hired us for several occasions. In fact, we just did an event for them just this last Sunday again. And they're just the most amazing family, the most amazing people. I can't disclose who they are, but let's just say that they do have a big company, and it's very well known, but they are an amazing people. So really, guys, everything that I've been cumulatively talking about here on the podcast is the reason why I believe I was able to receive such a blessing and such a gift of a $2,500 tip. And realistically, is this something that happens on a normal basis? No, it's not. I'll be very honest with you, but it is not out of the question to receive $150, $200, $250 pretty consistently for events that are, sometimes a little bit larger, 10 to 15 people, but still $100, $150 is a pretty normal thing that I receive quite often. And realistically, like I've been saying on this podcast, the service and where your heart's at with that and how well you serve, if people really can feel that you really care about them, then they'll take care of you, right? So that's really what it culminates to. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is a usual thing that happens every weekend. I wish it was. $2,500 a weekend would be great. But at the same time, it really is possible. And there's people out there that are willing to write a check or give you cash or do what this client did for me. And it's amazing. And so really it comes down to those few points is how much do you care about them? Are you showing that? Are you genuine about it? And are you serving them to the best of your ability? Are you really, really putting them first and not yourself first? Again, we've talked about this countless times on the podcast, but I really wanted to get it through you guys that that's really what it comes down to. So great question, Peter. Thank you so much. And anybody who participated as well in that little, kind of poll that I did, just a fun questionnaire and kind of just to see what you guys thought. So I appreciate that. Hey, I just want to continue to reiterate, if you guys haven't joined our Chefpreneur Movement Facebook group, you can go to Facebook, search Chefpreneur Movement, and you'll find the group. It's the Chefpreneur Movement Facebook group. You can basically click to be added. It's a private group, so we do have to approve you to be in the group, but there's nothing to pay. It's completely free. And we do really fun things like this. We also try to give you value. We also have access to download our ebook in there, and we're actually going to be launching pretty soon an audiobook for you guys. So just make sure you're getting into the group if you haven't already, and you're really serious about wanting to start a personal chef business. It's a great group to belong to and be in. So thank you again, guys, and thank you, Peter, for your question. So with that being said, let's dive into today's topic. And today, I just want to really title the podcast Servitude. Now, I've been really getting into the program with a few beta testers, and I'm really excited about this. And we're really still building the program. We're trying to, nothing's perfect, but we're trying to continue to add on layer upon layer and make it the best program you've ever seen and the best resource, hands down, out there for becoming a personal chef. I believe there's not going to be anything that's going to touch the Chefpreneur program. And again, not to brag, it's just that we really, really, really want to see your guys' success, and we want to bring you something that's extremely valuable. And I was on a training call, a mentorship call with one of our beta students, beta test students in the program, Josh. And when we were talking about things, we brought up servitude. And servitude to me is just really, really, really key on what we do as personal chefs. And I want to just kind of define what I believe the definition of servitude is, right? To have a servant's heart. And that's really doing things for other people, going out of your way, putting your own needs and wants, to the side and putting other needs and wants of people first and foremost. And here's the key. The second part of the definition is, and doing it for the right motives. So the reason why I chose that question that Peter asked was, when you're talking about a tip, I'm not having a servant's heart and wanting to serve someone 110% with everything I have just so I can get some tip or gratuity. That's not the reason why I do it. I've talked about it on this podcast before that I actually have serviced people where they've left me no tip. And that's okay. It happens. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And of course, in the Chefpreneur program, we do teach you how to charge correctly for what you do and what you're worth, so you don't feel like you basically, fell short at the end of the event. But anyway, as I was saying, servant's heart really means to do things for other people, set aside your own wants and needs for someone else, and doing it for the right motivation. And the right motivation is not about like I said, the recognition. It's not about the praise that you're going to get or the gratuity or tip. It's because you want to do the right thing and because you want to actually serve someone with that level of heart that you have. And one of the things that I find that's very strange in the industry, not even just in the culinary industry or the personal chef space, but in the industry, a lot of people don't even have basic common standards on even having a servant's heart. A couple really simple basics that you could take away straight off the bat is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, listen, we've talked, extensively on this podcast, about giving great service and putting ourselves 110%, towards the client and their needs and their wants, right? But you would be amazed in how many businesses that people don't even put themselves in your shoes, or vice versa, when you're dealing with companies or even products and services that you're buying, even when you go to the grocery store, when you go to any store, right? I mean, there's just so many times that I've seen that people just fall short on this. And it's really sad, because it's something that's very, very, very simple to accomplish, right? Recently, I was telling this story. I was shopping for an event at the grocery store the other night, and basically, I went to go order a panini, for me, just basically to have a quick bite before I headed over to the event. And, here's this gentleman behind the counter, and he's, hey, if you want to order something, there's a little sheet here and you fill it out. And so I was like, okay, well, I want a panini. I don't see a panini on the paper here. And he goes, oh, you could just flip it in the back and kind of write into it and all that good stuff. And so I was like, okay. So, wrote my order in, and I was buying it for me and my assistant, Betty. And basically I was like, hey, you know what? I wanted to get a caprese panini, which is fresh mozzarella, tomato, basil, and they put like a little basil pesto on it. But I always add prosciutto, and I've stole this sandwich actually from Chef Daniel, the chef in my company, and it's a great sandwich. So I've been ordering it ever since. And so I told him, I said, listen, all I want is 2 caprese paninis with light pesto and just a couple, slices of nice prosciutto. Not very difficult, not very complicated. So, I basically placed the panini order. I go shopping in the store, and basically I check out. I go back to the counter to pick up my sandwich so I can go pay for it. And, I see it still in the panini press, and I'm thinking, it's been like 15, 20 minutes here. Like, wow, okay, this guy must have been backed up. And I get it. I'm in the industry. I get it. So I'm sitting there impatiently waiting, and I'm noticing the cheese on the panini is provolone. Okay, it's not even mozzarella. It's and if it is, it's like, I don't know what kind of mozzarella that is, right? It's maybe sliced mozzarella just off of a block. So I said, excuse me, sir, what kind of cheese do you have on there? And he's like, oh, I sliced provolone, the Dietz and Watson kind of log provolone. And I'm like, the sandwich is supposed to have fresh mozzarella. And he goes, well, the cheese is fresh. And I was like, well, I hope it's fresh, but I just want to let you know, like, it's supposed to have fresh mozzarella. And he's like, looking at me with like a blank stare. Okay, I would assume that somebody who's making the sandwiches with the product would know a little bit about the ingredients. And again, I'm not trying to put this guy down, but I was like, okay, I'll help this guy out. So I go over, and there's obviously that little like kind of cheese deli section there in the grocery store. And I go grab a container of fresh mozzarella, and I'm like, this is what fresh mozzarella is. And he's like, oh, the soft one. And I was like, yeah, the soft one, and he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. Do you want me to, I guess, make you another one, or do you want to wait? And it was kind of like, I was like, well, no offense, it's been like 23 minutes since I placed an order for a sandwich. Like, no, you know what? I'll take it. No worries. So he wraps it up and, puts it in the brown paper and everything like that. And then all of a sudden the cash register there was broken. So I was like, okay, no worries, So he's like, oh, you're going to have to pay for it, up there at the front registers. I said, perfect. Walk over to the front registers. I'm checking out. I look down and I see the prices are 2 different prices. And I'm like, so one sandwich you charged me $4.99, then the other sandwich you charged me $5.99. And I'm thinking, these are the same exact sandwiches. Why is he charging me a different price? So I was like, okay. So I told I was literally already got rung up and I was already like, putting my debit card information in. And I was like, wait a minute, they're two different prices. And so the checker was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to call my supervisor over. So here comes a supervisor. She comes over and she's like, what's the matter? And I was like, well, he just charged two different prices for the sandwiches, same sandwich. I ordered two of the same ones. And she's like, are you sure they're the same? And I was like, yeah, I ordered the two exact same sandwiches. I said, I can go get the order form if you'd like, that I gave him. Oh, no, that's fine. I guess we'll do it this time. And I'm thinking, do what this time? And she's like, well, refund you $1. And I'm like, well, it's the same sandwich. I don't know what you want me to do. Do you want me to next time just keep my mouth shut and pay an extra $1 for the sandwich that I just got? And it was kind of like weird. And there was this attitude and okay, so she kind of reluctantly gave me back $1.08 and take my sandwiches, get out to the car, I'm busting them open in the car, on my way to the event. And I start eating it and I open it up and there's no tomato on it. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, where's the tomato? So then my assistant opens hers up and there's no tomato either. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you would think a caprese panini, he wouldn't forget the tomato. It's kind of an important part of a caprese, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, right? And at the same time, not that I'm complaining about prosciutto, but there was literally like a hamburger patty of prosciutto in this thing. I mean, it was like 3/4 inch thick. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if this would have been a restaurant and I was the owner, I'd be livid right now, right? It's like, forget the 13 cents tomato. Let's just stack on the old, 4 or 5 ounces of prosciutto that's, at $28 a pound. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, I could barely even muster this thing down. I had to take off some of the prosciutto. It was so salty. And I'm thinking to myself in my head, this is just basic stuff. Now, again, I'm in the industry. We're in the industry. A lot of us are. And we could be a little nitpicky about what we buy and what we order and our experiences with food. But I'm thinking to myself, like, the basic principle of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and serving them to the best of your ability, right? What goes around comes around is just lost. So here's what I was thinking. When I was kind of going down the road eating my prosciutto burger, I mean, I felt like that's literally how thick this thing was. I was thinking to myself, I was like, if this manager, this supervisor, went to a grocery store and ordered it the same way I did and walked out without tomato and different price sandwiches and the wrong cheese and so forth and so on, do you think she's not going to say anything? I mean, let's just be honest, guys. And that's one of the things that we always forget, just as human beings, is like, we're so quick. We're so quick. Now, there's certain standards that people should hit all the time, and I get all that. And there's things that are going to go wrong because nobody's perfect, and I get all that. But it's how you handle the situation. And servitude is just that, right? It's doing things for the right motives. I've said it before on this podcast that, has been difficult clients that I've dealt with that feel like I cannot please them to save my life. And what do I do in that position? What do I do in that particular situation? I have to just keep serving them because here's the key. If I stray away from the servitude and the person that I am, I've now allowed this person or that situation to change me. And now what I've told you before on this podcast, going even back to the $2,500 tip, is referrals are huge and people will notice what you do. Even if it's someone that you can't please, someone else is noticing. And if you stray away from being a servant in the sense of not a servant in some bad, term, but serving people to the best of your capacity, having that servant's heart towards them, I'm telling you, you're going to stray away from who you are, and it's going to always reflect back on you, no matter what the situation, right? Who knows? Maybe the supervisor had a bad day. Maybe she was having already a bad day, and so she was like, man, this is the 16th refund or whatever. I don't know, and I get all that. But if she allows the situation to basically steer her away from who she is or wanting to have that service and that servant's heart, it's going to tell a lot about her. And so I wanted to kind of just bring this out in the open because one of the core values that I teach in the Chefpreneur program, there's 3 core values, and one of them is servitude. And in this industry, you have to have a certain servant's heart. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I'm not saying that you have to just, be a lay down, just kind of lay down and let people walk all over you and all that. That has nothing to do with being a servant in the sense of being a servant, having a servant's heart. What I mean by that is doing it for the right motives, right? You're doing it because you are genuinely wanting to give them the best experience, and you genuinely want to see their point of view and be in their shoes and see things from their point of view. I've said it in this podcast again. I know that I keep referring to this podcast, but there's so many things that I've said in these podcasts that really culminate servitude in a nutshell, right? And that's what I'm trying to get, the point across to you guys is that it's not always about, again, we've talked about, it's not about the food. It's not even about all that stuff. It's about a servitude and a servant's heart. You're putting yourself in their shoes, right? Again, when you're thinking about some of the processes and the procedures that you put out there in place, like we've talked about, and you say you're going to call someone at 10 a.m. and you call the next day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not serving them the best of your ability. You're not putting yourself in their shoes. What would happen if you were them and somebody was wanting you to go to the beach or do something, or you had something important and you're just like, no, I need to take this phone call. This gentleman or this gal is going to call me at 10 o'clock and I need to be here and be ready. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, nobody calls you and you're just stuck there and you're emailing, them, trying to email you back and trying to ask you like, hey, I thought we were going to connect and talk about the event and so forth and so on. And they don't hear anything. They hear crickets. I mean, again, wouldn't you be a little bit bothered by that? Like, put yourself in their shoes. You don't know what they've missed out for that appointment, right? And so, again, I'm really trying to just reiterate this, guys, that servitude is what I believe is one of the core fundamental 3 core values you have to have when you're in this industry. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to be a perfect angel. I'm not saying that you have to, go all out, but anything that you could do to just continue to be a servant's heart, have a servant's heart, meaning put yourself in other people's shoes, see it from their perspective, right? The golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That golden rule really goes a long way. And I feel like people don't even use that anymore. It's just wild. And, for me, I just don't think that it's enough to just, be casual about these things and just kind of go through the motions with people because you're not giving them an experience. I mean, even if all these problems would have happened to me at the grocery store with my sandwich, right? If it was approached differently, it would have been different. Right? And I'm not even asking anything for free. I'm just asking for you to have some empathy and empathize with my situation. Not that I was like livid and it was like a life or death situation. I get it, right? I mean, it was some mistakes with the sandwich and so forth. But still, you still need to remedy it and you still need to, you're at the front checker. You should be customer service oriented and you should be handling it like, my dearest apologies, sir. I apologize. We charge you, we apologize. It must have just been a simple error. I'm going to go ahead and happily refund you back your $1.08, cents or whatever for this. And, I apologize for that. And I would have said, absolutely. I completely understand. It's, we all make mistakes. It would have been a very different outlook, right? Now, as far as the prosciutto burger, the lack of tomatoes and the different cheese, that's just a little bit of the processes that got out of hand. The guy's obviously not trained and who knows what he's thinking and who's training him and so forth and so on. But again, I'm just wanting to paint the picture that you guys need to have a servant's heart. And that's really one of the core values and fundamentals that you guys have, that you guys have to really, try to attain and possess. And if it doesn't come naturally, that's fine. You can work on it. And eventually you'll start to see other people's point of view more than your own. And when you put yourself in their shoes, you're really going to be starting to be able to give them the best experience possible, because when you find out what they want to accomplish and what's important to them and what they're thinking, and you're able to get inside their head in that way and start seeing the things from their point of view, you're able to serve them 110% better, right? So I hope that inspired you guys on servitude. And, I know that it sounds like a very simple topic, but I can't stress it enough. This is really what's going to allow you to win, not only just in your own business, but in life, right? This is what's really going to help you make those connections, is those referrals and the things that are going to come from in the future because you have such a servant's heart. I mean, people will overlook a lot of the minor details if you just have that. If you just have a servant's heart and you do it with the right motivation, not to get something, not to get recognition, not to get all this gratitude and gratuity and tips, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do and because you want to do it. Hey, you know what, guys? I appreciate you guys tuning into this podcast, and I'm really excited to continually bring you as much valuable content as I can. Again, I want to hear any questions or topics you want discussed on the podcast, and you can go to our Chefpreneur Movement Facebook group, and we want you to join that and make sure that you're basically just putting any questions or topics you want us to talk about on the podcast. I don't want to give you any official dates yet, but we will be launching, it looks like in January, the official Chefpreneur program will be launched. And so unless something crazy happens, but that's our goal, is to launch in January. I won't give you any specific dates yet. Also be on the lookout. We're going to be launching our new Chefpreneur audiobook. I'm excited to launch this. It's over an hour and a half, and it takes you through the entire process, and it's a great audiobook, and I think you guys are really, really, really going to enjoy it. So again, this is the Chefpreneur Movement. This is the Chefpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Andres Hinojosa. Hey, we are continually wanting to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to take a leap of faith, start your own business, and create experiences that you want to create without anybody holding you back. We believe the future is yours, and we believe you can put it into your own hands. Hey, we're still giving away a copy of the free ebook that we have. Go to ebook.chefpreneurprogram.com. That's ebook.chefpreneur program.com. Again, you can also find us on Facebook and join our Chefpreneur Movement group. So just search the Chefpreneur Movement. You can also read our 1-minute blog, chefpreneurprogram.com/blog. Hey guys, it's always a pleasure. We love talking to you guys and be able to communicate you guys on this podcast. And we can't wait till next week. Tune in. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Chefpreneur Podcast, where we want to educate, motivate, and inspire as many chefs to become their own boss. Please subscribe to the podcast and join us every week to be part of the movement. To sign up for our free online training, visit becomeachefpreneur.com.